Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin' Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
And welcome to Doing Time Show. I'm Peter and we have Marissa here. We're on, it's 8:55 a.m. Or streaming live on www.3cr.org.au.
And it's approximately 4:01, and we're going to be having quite a few interesting interviews coming up on the show. First up, we have a pre-recorded interview with Zenab, peer advocacy team member from the Flemington Kensington Community Legal Centre, and she'll be speaking about racial profiling and what actually got her into working at Flemington. So she'll talk about that. And then after that, we'll be speaking with Anthony Kelly on the Flemington Kensington Community Legal Service Centre, and he is the Chief Executive Officer there. And he'll speak about the Police Accountability Project and also speaking about the Independent Investigation's new inquiry on external oversight of police corruption and misconduct in Victoria. So the broadcast is basically about police corruption and racial profiling.
That's it. So we're going to a song now called Refugee Catch Monday with Mixed Beans. Hello and welcome to 3CR's Doing Time Show. This is Peter and Marissa's here too.
Hello, yep. And as on behalf of the Doing Time Show, we wanted to actually welcome Zenab, and she's from the Advocacy Project at the Flemington Kensington Community Legal Centre. But I'm sure Zenab will introduce herself in her own way. Hello, and welcome to the program, Zenab.
Thank you for having me. My name is Zenab, as you guys said. I am part of the Peer Advocacy Project in Flemington Kensington Legal Centre. And, would you guys like me to elaborate on that? Or?
Yes, please. It would be great if you could talk about how you actually came to join the Peer Advocacy team and talk a little bit about racial profiling. Last year I was doing my placements in the Western Suburbs, and I kept on hearing similar stories from the African youth about how they experienced unlawful stopping and searching by the police, which wasn't the same experience of those from the Asian and Middle Eastern background, because I used to mentor refugee and migrant young people. And so when I heard those stories and then the peer advocacy came about, I wanted to join because I knew that the peer advocacy would provide me with some knowledge on how to answer some of the questions that the young people asked. And so I got involved, and I never knew racial profiling actually existed prior to this. I thought, I thought Australia was a cool country, so I never, and then now, so now that I've got involved in this, I'm starting to see that it's actually a big problem. Like at the beginning, I thought it wasn't as big. Now I'm hearing more stories. I'm hearing more African youth saying that they've been targeted more than I actually thought it was happening. So, It's very interesting. Australia's a cool, you thought Australia was a cool country,
and yet we're pretty backward as far as human rights are concerned. Can I ask you, if you don't mind, where you're from?
I'm from Ethiopia, so it's in Africa, if you guys know. But yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You're African?
Yeah, African, yep.
And do you, so I know that I've been reading some of your articles actually, and you're saying that African communities are conscious of the problem, but we need the broader Australian community to be informed that this is happening in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we need people to be aware and to acknowledge that it's happening, because most people don't know it's happening. Like, it doesn't get reported. So these things are happening, but you won't hear on the news. You hear other stuff where it's not just the thing is I don't want to say it's only happening to the African youth though, because we know that it's happening to Islander youth and the Indigenous young people too. It's a thing against Black people, obviously, yeah. And so anyone of colour is impacted by this, and we need the wider Australian community, not just the African community or the Indigenous community or the Islander community, to be aware, and that, we need to speak up.
And you co-founded Afro Society, didn't you? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so last year, because at uni, I was never really involved in any activities. And so one day I was walking to the library, and my friend, she was like, Zuna, come, we're having a meeting. And I'm like, for what? She said, there's a bunch of African youth, students having a meeting to start a student organization. And then I went to the meeting, and then I realized that we had a big cohort of African students within the university that I never really realized. And then when we met that day, we were all eager to start a little society that would allow us to showcase our heritage within the university. And so we built a little community there. It's been a year since we started the society.
That's fantastic. And so just to talk a little bit more about racial profiling, what's the thing that really upsets you the most about racial profiling?
It's shocking, yeah, because with the racial profiling, you wouldn't think it would exist now. We're in 2017, eh? And so you would think something like this shouldn't be happening, but it is. And so it's just increasing, actually. I feel like we're not aware of it, but it's increasing. And so it just annoys me that more people don't know about it. It annoys me that it's happening, and that people who come here to seek asylum or to live here for a bit, people have migrated here for a better life, yeah? And so they shouldn't be targeted just because of the colour of their skin. They should be able to live freely and not fear the police, because, the police are there to protect them. So it really upsets me that racial profiling still exists, and it still is an issue today, and that we're still talking about this today when we shouldn't be. So,
well, it's 2017, isn't it? And basically, no one should be policed on the basis of their race.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Exactly.
Oh, sorry.
Go.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think that the mainstream media sort of highlights racial profiling, as in, they portray racial profiling? Makes it worse, sort of thing?
I think I would say that the reason a police would act in a way of would police a young person, would racially police a young person, could be because of what's reported in the news. Because as you see the news, usually you don't see the positive things about African youth in the media, or even other youth of colour. You see the negative part, the apex, the whole gang-related crimes and stuff like that. When in reality, majority of African youth, or even people of colour, young people of colour, are doing good and are actually trying to work hard to achieve, to aspire to be different than how the media, perceives them, how the media highlights them. And so I do think it plays a part in in the racial policing. But then I also think that it's something that's already embedded in people's upbringing, because we live in a society where it is it's a white country, and so people from a young age are told that black people have been somehow brainwashed to fear black people. It's the studies do show that unconscious bias exists and stuff, all that stuff, and so a police officer is more likely to fear an African youth than they would fear a white youth, yeah, because that's just how
our society is. That we fear black people. We think that black people are criminals. We think they're dangerous and all that stuff. So not we, but like what I'm saying is like the society thinks that. And so I think the media plays a big part, but also it's also systemic as well. So
absolutely, it's systemic. And how do you think we can put a stop to racial profiling?
Well, yeah, as I said in the article, we do really need to start talking about it because not many people know about it. When I bring up racial profiling, even to people who are in the community sector, they're always like, well, are you sure this is happening? Because I've never heard about it. And I'm thinking, wait, so if people in the community sector don't know about it, then how are other people going to know about it, you know? So I think we need to start talking about it. And I think the media really needs to highlight that racial profiling does exist, that racial policing is existing, is still happening in Australia. And it is not just in the USA, and it's not in other countries of the world, you know, it's happening here as well.
Yeah.
And so the main thing is we need to start talking about it. You know, like if we start talking about it, more people are aware, then we'll have more people like supporting us and helping us out with the issue. So, we just need to start talking and highlighting it and reporting it and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean, it really gets to me when I go and see a movie about racial profiling or something to do with race, and then you go out of the theatre and you hear the people say, oh, but that happened in the past. That doesn't happen now.
It does happen now.
Zena, what are your goals as peer advocacy team member? What are your goals in terms of this position? How do you think you can best help people? I know you were saying in your writing that you feel that people need to be informed more about their human rights, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, as the peer advocacy group, what we do, our main role is to go around and educate young people on their rights and all that. Yeah, so I think I want young people to know what their rights are, like under the Human Rights Charter, and even under they need to know their rights, and they need to know how to respond to the police. So there's certain questions they don't have to answer that I've learned since joining the peer advocacy project. And so what they need to know, like what I want for the young people is that they need to they need to have a better understanding of what their rights are, so that when they are when they get stopped by the police, they'll be able to have a positive interaction than a negative one. And so, yeah.
I'd love to have you back on the show sometime to talk about the Charter of Human Rights in relation to racial. It'll take much longer. We wouldn't be able to do it today, but it would be very interesting for you to come back and have a look at that.
Yeah, I think, I would like to do that, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have you got any final comments? Sorry.
No, just that, I don't know. I just want more people to talk about it. That's all, I guess. I think that we need to start doing research. We need to start, acknowledging that it's happening, and that's all.
Yeah, especially because overseas, there's a lot more progress being made. And later on in the show, we're going to be speaking with Anthony Kelly, the executive officer there, about the importance of independent investigation. Of police in particular.
So
that's another story. So
So Zainab, where do we people contact you or the peer advocacy group? Sorry.
We have a Facebook page so it's called the Peer Advocacy Project. Yeah. People can like it and message us on that, and I'm pretty sure you've got the centre's contact details, so that people can contact the Flemington Kensington Legal Centre, Community Legal Centre.
Yeah.
But the best way to contact the Peer Advocacy Project would be to go on our Facebook page.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Look, thank you so much for coming onto the program, and I'm hoping that we can certainly build up community by looking at respect for human rights, which is essential for a community, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And that was the interview with Zinab. Keep going, Riz.
And it's approximately 4:18, and that was a very good interview with Zenab, and hopefully we'll be speaking shortly with Anthony Kelly from Flemington Kensington Community Legal Centre. And it's approximately 4:18. And basically Zenab was the peer advocacy team member. And Peter, I believe you wanted to go into an announcement and music.
Oh no, I'd just like to talk about this. The Herald Sun have got this article, call for submissions during public probe into police complaint system. Concerns about the woeful inadequate police complaints system have prompted a public inquiry into the investigation of police corruption and misconduct. So the Victorian Parliament, a whole independent board-based anti-corruption committee are calling for submissions to the inquiry. So,
Peter, that's actually a really good introduction to the next interview that you're going to be doing, because that's what Anthony's going to be talking about shortly. So that's really educational for listeners.
Yeah, so we'll just go to a song now. This is Nocturnal with New Era.
And you're back with the Doing Time show, and Peter has just lined up Anthony Kelly from Flemington Kensington Community Legal Centre. It's approximately 4:23 p.m. Hi Anthony, how are you going?
Good, Marissa, how are you?
Great to have you, good thanks. So yeah, we just had a really great interview with the peer support worker, advocacy worker.
Yeah, wonderful.
She was fantastic. So yeah, talked a lot about racial profiling, and we discussed a little bit about police accountability towards the end. And of course, she made the comment that it's another story in itself, but it is connected in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The people in our race discrimination case back in 2013, one of their original outcomes was for complaints to be heard independently of police. And one of the things we've said is that if we did have a fully independent complaint and investigative system, then cases like ours that cost millions of dollars and take many, many years wouldn't be necessary. So,
Absolutely.
So if you had a system that could investigate injustices effectively, promptly, right at the beginning, just after they happen, then we'd just save so much time and effort to resolve the issues either way.
Hey, let's get with the program. Let's follow Ireland and the UK and all that, huh? Yep.
That's right, and Canada, the systems as well.
Yep. So, Anthony, can you tell us a little bit about the new inquiry on external oversight of police corruption and misconduct in Victoria, and I believe it's the first one?
Well, it's the first one for many decades, really. So as many people would know, we haven't had an independent complaint system since the 1970s, when there was a guy, Ian Freckleton, who was heading up a very short-lived police complaints authority in Victoria. But we've generally either had the Ombudsman look after police complaints, or we've had the Office of Police Integrity provide minimal oversight. And now we have IBAC, the Independent Broad-Based Committee Against Corruption, provide, again, a minimal amount of oversight of police complaints. So they can investigate a small number of complaints if they see fit, or they can just check on the police after a complaint's been finalised. And we think both of those models were woefully inadequate for the needs of Victoria in terms of their human rights protections and just police accountability in general. So
you're one step ahead of me as usual. I was just about to say that about IBAC, and you beat me to it.
So basically, the Victorian government, the current Victorian government, has been reviewing Victoria's integrity system now since they got to power a few years ago.
Yep.
And one of the parliamentary committees that are looking at that is called the IBAC committee, and they're looking at the legislation surrounding IBAC. And they've made a few inquiries, they've done a few public inquiries already around corruption and how IBAC works and how we can improve the legislation. But this time, and after some pressure from us and other community organisations and legal bodies, they've taken on the task of running a public parliamentary inquiry into police oversight system. So this focuses on the way in which police complaints are handled and heard in Victoria.
So in terms of the parliamentary inquiry or review, and we know that it's got a particular responsibility to make sure that the investigations are effective and impartial with complaints against police. Can you give us, a brief example? If that was going to be in place, what could be like a grassroots example that would benefit from that?
Okay, so if many of the listeners would have heard about the police shooting at Inflation nightclub.
Oh, yes.
A couple of mornings ago, 3:40 in the morning, there was 40 critical incident response team police members stormed into the Inflation nightclub after receiving a call about a person with a gun. And within a very short period of time, 2 people were shot. And the circumstances about what happened in that shooting are under a bit of scrutiny at the moment. There's been quite widely differing accounts from eyewitnesses and staff and management at the nightclub and what the police have formally said. And so this is a very classic example of why we need an independent investigative team, like a body that is resourced enough to be able to send a trained specialist investigative team to critical incidences like this within the first hour, the golden hour that investigators talk about after an incident's occurred, and to be able to separate police members and interview witnesses and police, and to gather evidence and collect forensic evidence straight away, and then produce an independent report without the risk of bias and collusion or other things that can happen when police are called upon to investigate their own colleagues. And so some other jurisdictions, as we mentioned just before, have the non-police investigative teams, and they have their own vehicles, and some of them have helicopters, and they can fly to a critical incident. There's a shooting out in regional Victoria. They'll get there very quickly, and they'll be the ones interviewing police and making sure that police don't, talk before, collude their stories beforehand and all those before making statements. And they're able to, they're very well trained in police procedures and guidelines, and only a small percentage of them might be former police or police from other jurisdictions. Generally, they're civilian investigators, and it's incredibly effective and transparent.
It sounds really transparent, and I'm wondering, I hope I don't put you on the spot here, but I wanted to mention Tyler Cassidy. Do you think that, his death was quite traumatic, wasn't it? Do you think that this type of, with all these trained investigators, do you think that would help the police in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. So police-related deaths are a really key area where an independent investigative team would be critical. And Tyler Cassidy's tragic shooting would have potentially been resolved a lot more effectively and investigated a lot more effectively by an independent team. There was lots of problems with the way it was initially investigated and the way the family was, dealt with and so forth. Ironically, in a police-related death, the state coroner has a purview and is able to it's actually, the evidence is actually able to be brought before an independent body. And so, we actually did get some insights and recommendations from the coroner around Tyler Cassidy's death. But in a critical incident like Inflation, where nobody was killed, it's simply the police doing it. Even when there's a coronial investigation, the coroner currently relies on police to do the investigations. So again, it points to we need a specialist team that is resourced enough to be able to do the investigation that is hierarchically and institutionally independent from police.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm quite intrigued that IBAC has actually called for this parliamentary review.
Well, so it's not IBAC itself.
It's not?
IBAC is it's the IBAC committee.
The IBAC committee, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's a committee on Parliament. It's chaired by the Honourable Kim Wells.
Oh, I see.
A Liberal National Party member, and it's a joint parliamentary committee, so it has Labor, Greens, and
yes,
Liberal representatives on it, and they've called the inquiry into IBAC.
Oh, I see. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, and submissions are only open until the 3rd of August. Can you let us know what the role of the submission would be in case people, listeners want to write submissions, organisations want to do that?
Sure.
And how it works?
Sure. So anyone can make a submission to a parliamentary inquiry. It only has to be clear and legible, and it can be, you can add your name to it, or you can notify the committee to have it made anonymously. But it can be a combination of direct experience. So if someone's had an experience of going through the police complaint system, either positively or negatively, you can record that and make that into a submission. You can submit online, or you can submit, with via email or post. And it's quite important. So this is an opportunity for people's voices to be heard, who have gone through the complaint system and perhaps not found that it's very effective in their case. So a lot of complaints, as we know, the vast majority come back as unsubstantiated or unfounded, or with some other reason that their complaint hasn't been found to be, So, and only less than 10% of complaints are actually ever substantiated, and only 4% of complaints involving allegations of assault are substantiated. So it's a very low substantiation rate with our current system. And we know that when we put complaints before independent judiciary, either at the magistrate or the county court level, then we get a very different result. So when the evidence is examined by an independent judge or magistrate, it's in all the cases that were put before the court, they're found in our client's favour against the police's evidence. But when the police examine or assess that same evidence, they find it to be unsubstantiated. So that points to really significant failings in the current system in terms of the way that they are investigating, the way that police are assessing the incidents. And, so basically this is an opportunity for people to put their experiences on paper and let the Parliament know what you think is wrong with the current system. And it's also an opportunity for community organisations to put forward their views about what would make a better police complaint system in Victoria.
I'm hoping that the African community put out a submission.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so a body that can really thoroughly investigate systemic issues is really important. So we often have problems with what constitutes a serious complaint and what constitutes a non-serious complaint. So, for instance, a racial abuse or racial vilification might be assessed as non-serious. So rudeness or a duty failure or something like that from a police officer, or an allegation of racial profiling, where there's no violence or anything involved, would likely be assessed as non-serious and therefore passed on to police. But if they happen a lot, either in the same area or in the same region or for the same reasons, then it indicates that there's a systemic issue going on, and any sort of independent body needs to be able to both identify those systemic issues and then act on them really thoroughly so that they're nipped in the bud as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
And the Office of Police Integrity, for instance, we made 50 complaints. Our centre, the legal centre, made 50 or over 50 complaints to the Office of Police Integrity, and we were continually calling on them to undertake a systemic investigation of what was going on in the Flemington North Melbourne region, and they refused. And therefore, we had to take it all the way to the federal court to get some sort of outcome. So that issue, had there been an adequate independent body investigation, then we wouldn't have had to spend 5 years and cost the state many millions of dollars to get an outcome that identified and partially redressed racial profiling.
It's very true what you're saying, and just to kind of tie that up in regards to the statement that I believe, is that right? Is that the Police Accountability Project put out a statement about yesterday's shooting?
That's right.
Yes, yeah. And it's very, very informative in the sense that, you know, the statement says that that the shooting should be investigated rapidly by a trained civilian team independent of Victoria Police. And it's interesting because civilian review boards are extremely important, and in fact, historically, that came out of the Black Panther movement and other black movements.
Yeah, that's right. There's long been calls for civilian review boards. They sort of have a different role. Often the civilian review boards that exist in the US and other places are unfortunately not resourced enough to do their own investigations.
Unfortunately.
So there has to be a body that has enough resources
to
be able to do multiple and thorough investigations. And so rather than just review existing investigations, so at the moment IBAC simply doesn't have the resources to carry out the number of investigations it does. And ironically, there's perhaps 100 or more serving police members who are dedicated to investigating other police.
Yeah.
So it's a waste of resources for the police to do that. So part of what we're asking for is that the resources and the financial and other resources that go towards getting those serving members to investigate other police could easily be transferred to a non-police body.
Yeah. I was just pointing out how similar that was, you know, and it's good to have that improvement with the team, as you said. And it's got to be prompt and well-resourced, like you said, transparent and independent, because, I mean, too many times, I've attended trials. In particular, I attended in Sydney a trial of the Hickey family, the persecuted Hickey family, and what happened. They were persecuted because of TJ's death, because they wanted a plaque put up, and the cop said no. That has to be seen as an accident. And, you know, the classic thing that you always hear in the courtroom by police is, I don't seem to recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't seem to recall. I don't remember. Yeah. Now, that to me is actually extremely unhealthy to have that. And you can tell, you know, that when police are investigating police, they are at liberty to say that they don't seem to recall.
Yeah, indeed. And that's so a body with the powers and authority to get witness statements and to get police statements is very important. And IBAC do have those sort of powers to compel statements. They use them in various ways, and they did during the Operation Ross investigation into policing in Ballarat. Mm-hmm. So those powers to force witnesses to make statements or police to make statements are very important, and they're mainly used in the anti-corruption context. But yeah, so any sort of an independent body does also have to have those powers. But another benchmark that we're calling for is victim-centred, or is able to incorporate the views and the needs of victims. And that's again where our current system is it was just horrible and woeful. That many complainants are treated as criminals, as vexatious. They're treated as as problematic, rather than people who are genuinely trying to improve the system. The vast majority of people that we see who come to us with a police complaint really want little more than an apology and an assurance that it won't happen again to other people, what they've experienced. And so at heart, they're trying to improve the system, and that's where the current system is failing. Victims are being treated horribly, and their complaint is not being taken seriously to improve policing in general. And it's, as we saw with the Inflation nightclub shooting, these are issues that speak to public safety in a very real way. If there's training, if there's procedural issues, if there's any issues with the way police carried out their actions on that particular night, shooting 2 people in a nightclub, and it's something that Victorian public should want to see addressed straight away.
You know, Anthony, this is just priceless. I'm having a look at part of the statement here and the quote from the Victoria Police Northwest Metro Region Superintendent, Hardman, saying she was satisfied with the conduct of the police members involved in the incident, which involved 40 critical incident response team members entering the nightclub and shooting 2 people. 40? Right. Is that correct? That's not a typo, is it?
No,
40?
It's about that many. That's what's been reported.
Sorry.
They obviously treated it as a very serious, when they got a call
of course.
about it.
Yeah.
They obviously treated it very seriously, and that's fair enough.
Yeah, it is.
The way they reacted inside the nightclub, and whether or not he had the person who was shot had actually something in his hand.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting that it wasn't serious, but that's over the top, isn't it? Yeah.
Potentially, but that all should be looked at very objectively.
Yes.
By an independent body, and so whether the police are able to make that sort of judgment is really questionable.
Correct.
The statement from the superintendent, this is a bit of a perennial issue, is that senior police have a propensity to come out and support their officers after a shooting incident like this.
Yeah.
And it's sort of understandable because the police would want to back up their members this. However, it's hugely problematic because their colleagues are investigating their members at the same time, and so this superintendent, in making that statement that she was satisfied, preempted the outcomes of any sort of investigation.
Correct.
And potentially influenced it.
Yeah.
So this is we've been calling on police to not do that for some time, but it's such a perennial issue, is that their first go-to point is to try and frame the incident in a particular way that supports the police version of the story, and it's understandable, but it's hugely problematic, and it's something that again will be mitigated if we had a fully independent complaints body.
Yeah, and for the benefit of listeners, Anthony, I think it's safe to say that with this particular incident, if the area was cordoned off, as you said in the statement, the project said in the statement, and evidence secured, witnesses interviewed within the first golden hour after the event. And that was your quote, I believe. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so that's the critical time when an investigative team should get there. It's not always possible, but it's certainly after a shooting incident like this, then an investigative team would be prepared to get there very quickly. And again, the other element of this, of course, is that it restores public trust that an investigation is actually going to be fair and impartial afterwards, and that's very important.
Yeah, I know we kind of got a little bit very specific today, but it's terribly important for listeners to understand, isn't it, Anthony, about the importance of independent investigations. And indeed, the Doing Time show has covered this topic extensively over the years, and it's always good to keep it alive in light of this new investigation or review that's happening.
That's right, yeah. And it's an opportunity for groups, for individuals to put in a submission. It's very important to do so. People can go to our website, which is policeaccountability.org.au, for lots of resources about what an independent model can look like and the human rights benchmarks that we're asking for. But people can also just write down their story and let the IBAC committee know that this is important. And they can do that online. So you can follow the links to the Parliamentary committee websites where they have an online form, and people can write quite a short, submission, which is very helpful. Or they can look at the resources on the website and make a more detailed one if they want to.
Anthony, thanks so much for coming onto the program. Do you have any final comments?
No, just encourage people to submit and to keep checking out the resources available on our website. And it's partly this, the keeping police accountable is a huge, system-wide job. So the more pressure we can bring to bear, the better. Thank you very much, Anthony. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Melissa.
Bye-bye. And that was Anthony Kelly from the Flemington Kensington Community Legal Centre speaking about a new parliamentary review from the IBAC committee in regards to a new police inquiry. And just as a postscript to that interview, and we were speaking amongst many topics about the shooting incident at Inflation's nightclub. I forgot that nightclub actually still exists, actually. It's been there for years. Bit of a blast in the past. But had this incident occurred in Belfast, London or Toronto, an independent civilian body would have commenced investigation of the incident immediately. Trained civilian investigators would have attended the scene, separated and interviewed civilian and police witnesses, and collected and preserved forensic evidence. Civilian investigators are trained in clinical investigation techniques, crime scene management, and have specialist knowledge of police protocols and procedures. They form the ideal response to these sorts of incidents and can investigate without bias and conflicts of interest. And that was just a direct quote from the statement that was put out by the Police Accountability Project of the Flemington Kensington Community Legal Centre. And we all know the major difference. I know this is in Victoria, but I can't resist saying this, that we all know the difference it would have made to Cameron Dumudgy when he died, that horrible death in custody in Queensland.
Yeah.
It's approximately 4:48, and just a reminder, listeners, about Radiothon, that there's still quite a lot of unpaid pledges that haven't come in, and we understand that people are busy, but it's not too late to send that in. So please pay your pledges if you haven't done so already, and for the people that have donated to the 3CR Radiothon already, thank you very, very much.
I'll just go to an announcement, then a song.
"3CR", always bringing you the latest union news.
They're coming after us at the moment. They want to get rid of penalty rates, the big push from businesses. They want to get rid of all the things that you and I have fought for.
So there's tens of thousands of jobs gone contracted out to sham contracting arrangements.
On 8:55 AM and on the web, 3cr.org.au.
And you're with 3CR 855 AM. This is Asylum is a Crime by Pataphysics.
With the then you're back with the Doing Time show, and it's approximately 4:52. And I just wanted to make a very quick announcement for people that are interested. Just wanted to say that Anarchist Black Cross Melbourne is actually organised a Writing to Political Prisoners workshop, and it's part of the Animal Liberation Conference. It starts at 4:30, Saturday the 15th of July, Ross House, 247 Flinders Lane, Melbourne City. And yeah, it's approximately 4:52, and we haven't got much time left. Wanted to actually especially thank Anthony Kelly today for organising Zenab, the peer support advocacy worker that was interviewed about racial profiling. Thank you to Anthony as well for coming on the show. Both guests were from Victoria and from the Community Legal Centre. And so maybe you've got a song, Peter, and then we can go out with our usual theme song after that with Black Fella, White Fella.
Yeah, I'll just put on Combat Wombat, Babylon Time Bomb.
And Beyond Zero's up next.
And it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from Marissa, and stay tuned next Monday, every Monday 4 to 5 for the Doing Time show. And
we're on podcast now. Sorry, Miss.
Yeah, we are on podcast. Yeah. And we also have Claire Seppings coming in next Monday.
Okay. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.